Today we have a crazy story of a narcissistic father-in-law breaking somebody's adult toy. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, my mom thinks she's entitled to her grandchild at all times. My husband and I live with my mom because she's a low-income earner. She cannot afford to pay for her mortgage, so we help her pay for her mortgage and house maintenance, etc. I also pay for most of her bills and all her car notes. In return, she helps with babysitting when she's free. Lately, she started to become controlling towards my 2-year-old. She's yelled and screamed at her almost every other day, said nasty things. A couple days ago, my daughter wanted to sleep with her, so I let her. Middle of the night, daughter started crying profusely. So I came out to check and was picking up my daughter from her bed to come sleep with me. My mom suddenly snatched her away from me and said, "No, she cannot sleep with you, let her go." I was shocked and said, "That is my daughter, what is wrong with you?" She then said, "But she is my grandchild." Continued to pull her from me while my daughter was crying. The next morning, she acted as if nothing happened and tried to converse with me. It was extremely bizarre. Since then, I can't look at her the same way and have not spoken to my mom. I had talked about this with my direct relatives and they said I'm wrong, took my mom's side. I'm honestly not sure what to say anymore. Am I the bad one here? For context, my mom was borderline abusive to me my entire life and never took accountability for any of her wrongdoings. Everything she did, she claimed was because she wanted good things for me. I confronted her many times about her yelling at my child, but she has not stopped, claiming, "Your daughter is bad, so I have to teach her." My daughter is literally 2, can barely speak, not sure what's so bad about her spilling water or wanting to draw on the floor. Update, lots of folks are asking why I allow my daughter to be in her life. It's a long story of how I got there, but over the years, I thought my mom had changed and became a nicer person. I've always assumed it must have been hard being a single mom raising kids. That's why I could understand why she was angry at us lots of times. And my daughter's obviously not near her anymore after what happened. I'm still processing the situation and trying my best here. Yeah, needless to say, some real boundaries need to be set here. If anything, keeping your kid away from learning the behaviors your mom displays. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys can't get enough of hearing about these entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is My Mom is Jealous. My mom is jealous of me, 30-year-old male, and it's weirding me out. Any slightest indication of my wife being intimate to me, my mom will let my wife know that she needs to be careful with me and that I'm her son first and my wife's husband second. I'm talking about an instance when my wife posts on social media or simply talks nice about me. Is that a normal behavior? Should I talk to a professional about it? It's gotten to the point where my wife is having to watch everything she does, and it's having an inevitable consequence in my family life. Right now, my mom is visiting us for a few weeks, and it's created the most awkward situation in my household. I don't really know what you talking to a professional would do. Honestly, I feel like this is something you need to actually just call out, not talk to a professional about. I would talk to your wife about it and maybe want to try to get like a game plan together and confront your mom about her behaviors here. This next story is My Parents Want My Gifted Deposit Back. Today I told my parents I'm putting my house on the market as I've recently moved in with my partner, overlap but whatever. When I purchased it, they gifted me 2,500 British pounds towards the deposit and signed the declaration to say I wouldn't need to pay them back or they wouldn't have any stake in the house, etc. I asked why, to be told they don't want me to have that money towards my future with my partner. We plan to buy together because they don't see him as the right person for me. Bear in mind, they've said that about every partner I've had, bar the one who was the abusive drug addict, but that's another story. What do? I have a copy of the signed declaration that the money was a gift. I still saved up the majority of the deposit, they just made up for the shortfall at the time. They regularly use money as a weapon against my personal choices. I'm 28 for anyone wondering and been with said partner for 3 years. Edit, sorry, I should have said the house I own is circa 150 miles from where I'm now living. I relocated back to where I'm from as the intention was to be closer to family and friends. When I bought the house, I was single and didn't expect to be doing long distance anytime soon. The property is also leasehold, so I cannot legally rent it out. I want to let the house go as I have no ties to the area I was living in. It was simply because of work when I left uni and I stayed in that area for 6 years. My partner also intends to sell next year so we can buy together. The circumstances right now just make it more sense for me to sell mine now. There's a lot more to it than just this, it's just not really relevant to this post. I would definitely do whatever you can to make sure that declaration page is backed up, secure, away from any place that they could influence it or try to get rid of it. And as long as you have that, you know that you're not at fault here, and you're in no way in trouble or liable for anything, and they can hate on you and your partner all you want, but I say go live your life. If they want to be like that, then you just cut them out of your life and you live the best life you can. Our next story is, Karen yells at me when I try to stop her kids from being run over. I've always kind of hoped I would have a story to post here, but I didn't expect it to happen like it did. For a little context, I'm a delivery driver for a big rainforest company. On this particular day, it had been raining despite the reports promising sun, so I didn't prepare for the sudden change. Typically, we get assigned areas to deliver to, so over time we learn the roads and become more accustomed to them. We recently changed contracts for areas, so the area I was delivering to is fairly new to me. I'm driving down a small road pouring with rain at about 15 miles per hour when I see a kid dart out from between two cars. Naturally, I hit the brakes and stop. I look around for any sign of a parent. Nothing. I can't see anyone. I then look back to the road and the kid is gone. Now, I'm not about to go out and chase after a kid, so I just keep going to the end of the road to make my delivery. As I make my way back down, I see another car trying to park, but the kid from before and I assume his brother are both running around the moving vehicle. These kids couldn't have been older than 5. The woman driving the car almost hits the kid with the back bumper. I know that it was unintentional as the kid was short and he was in the blind spot. Thankfully, the kid ran off again, allowing the woman to park. I drive on and roll down my window. I tell the kids, "Hey, don't run around on the road, it's dangerous." I then hear a very loud, "Who do you think you are?" Karen turns up with a typical haircut up to my van. "Who the freak are you?" I said, "I'm sorry, are you the mom?" She says, "Yeah, stop telling my kids what to do." I'm quite ticked off right now. 2 vehicles have almost hit her kid, and all I was trying to do was warn them of the danger. I try to keep my composure. "You need to tell your kids to stay off the road. It's dangerous. That other woman almost hit them." "I'm watching them. They're safe. Who the freak do you think you are telling my kids what to do?" I just want to get out of here now, so I snap and just start yelling myself. "I'm not the one who's going to end up with dead kids." She replies, "Get the freak off my road. Buy a bigger shirt, you fat witch." Now, that was a little uncalled for, so I turn on my engine and yell out at her, "At least my shirt will be cheaper than a coffin," and I drive off just hearing screaming. I'm more than likely going to be delivering here again in the future. I'm half tempted to get an empty cardboard box and keep it on hand if she tries anything again. This lady is crazy and doesn't understand the danger of their kids running around on the road. I'd almost rather their kids be the ones that they just hand the tablet to the whole time than be running around on the road. At least they're a little bit safer. At least their brains will just be frying from TikTok clips and not splattered on the road. Our next story is, my mother low-key spoilt my wedding. So there's a lot of context leading up to the drama, which I'll do my best to sum up. But basically, me and my partner decided to have a child-free wedding, and my brother and mother were absolutely horrified. Told me I was ripping the family apart, etc., ruined my engagement, the whole shebang. Fast forward a few months, and my brother has largely moved on, and my mother is trying her best, but still has an occasional strop about it. Now, the day before my wedding, all heck breaks loose. My other brother, who, bless him, is the only person who didn't upset me during the planning of the wedding, calls me and says he has COVID. Freak. We have a number of vulnerable people coming and can't risk anyone getting ill. I'm really close to him and devastated he can't come. I call my mother in tears, and instead of reassuring me that the wedding will still be lovely or anything like that, she admits the wedding will be crap and is largely upset about all the food she's bought that will now go to waste. So I'm furious, and we argue. She insinuates that everyone thinks less of me because of the whole child-free crap. She then essentially emotionally blackmails me into inviting my sister-in-law and young niece, because if I don't, she won't have anyone to talk to. I said I was glad I was going to become a member of a different family. Not my finest moment, admittedly, but I'd reached the end of my tether. Skip to the evening. I'm heading to my mother's for the night with my maid of honor. I call my mother to let her know we're on our way, and she's hammered. She can barely string a sentence together. We arrive and I have to look after her. My maid of honor makes us dinner. We have to collect the flowers without her and neither of us drive. I'm trying to sober her up. All the while she's phoning and messaging her friends, telling them that my wedding is a disaster. Lovely. I'm so angry by this point, I can barely keep it together. The wedding day arrives and, all things considered, was absolutely wonderful. My mother barely spoke to me and we haven't spoken properly since the wedding, about 3 weeks ago. No apology, nothing. The kicker is that her response to my brother when he said how hurt I am was to say, "We're both hurt." So there's a better chance of heck freezing over than her actually taking responsibility for her actions. I'm at a loss here in how to move forward. I don't want to speak to her first because I know she won't apologize, but I don't think I can just brush this under the carpet. Am I overreacting? I don't think OP's overreacting. She sounds exhausting. If I were OP, I would be so done with trying to put up with all of these behaviors, these requests, this emotional blackmail. I would be absolutely locked away from her. Our next story is, My Narcissistic Mother is Ruining Me. I just can't freaking take this anymore. My mom is an entitled and narcissistic jerk who thinks she can force her will on her son and feed me like a pig. She won't leave me alone even when I'm just trying to live my life and shove food towards my direction to force me into eating it. I hate how our relationship has turned into one where all she thinks about is whether or not I'm eating enough, instead of actually seeing me as a human being who doesn't need someone else to determine their own health. It's absurd. This has been going on for months by now, and I'm genuinely mentally exhausted from having to fight with my parents every day about food sizes and portions because it's taken over our family dynamic, despite it being such a stupid thing to argue about. I literally have to pull every single trick in the book on how to cut calories just so that I don't gain weight. I swim at the YMCA as not only a daily exercise, but also as a sport that I genuinely enjoy doing. But even my mom won't let me do that, and she tries to cut down on how much I swim because she thinks I'm too skinny to be exercising, which is the most brainless thing anyone has ever said to me. Everything that my mom is doing to me is stressing me out, and I feel so helpless because she just yells at me, and I'm too much of a coward to stand up for myself and yell back at her and standing my ground. I want to leave this household so much, and at this point I'd rather just live on the streets because of all this toxic parenting is making me feel disgusted at myself and feel like a piece of crap. I'm really lost on what to do right now, and any tips would be great. I don't want to speculate one way or the other. Honestly, I think the best thing to do here is to actually involve professionals. If they feel like they have legitimate concerns and OP doesn't think that their current situation is concerning, then why not consult a professional? If for any reason you don't want to, then maybe there's a greater situation at hand. Our next story is, parents stole $2,200. Had $4,000 in cash in my room, $300 of it goes missing. Then another time, $200. Left me with $3,500, and now I'm at $1,700 or $1,800 right now. I pulled it out to try to get a car, but I couldn't get it because of certain reasons. I'm trapped in their house having to pay $800 monthly, and I can't wait until my mom asks for the $800 I need to pay this check. If I don't pay it, then we'll lose the house. I work at my dad's job. If we lose the house and I move out somewhere, since I don't have a car, I can't get to work. I can't put my money in a bank because my bank is an hour away, can't drive, and I've been very busy the past few months from work. Yes, I hid my money after I lost $500, but I guess she rummaged through my room and found it. I'm hopeless and don't know what to do. The car was supposed to give me a ticket to move out finally and get away from my toxic family. I feel stupid and just want to end things because all that money I saved up is gone. They're trapping me in their house and I get treated like crap. I'm 19 years old, by the way. Let's not forget to add that she's a compulsive liar and very manipulative. It hurts me mentally. Edit, I got into it with my mom and my dad bucked up with me and shoved me into the wall. He's 6'1", I'm 5'8". He's huge. That's the first time he's laid hands on me. This was last week. I mean, I would say that OP needs to look around and look for some kind of apartment or rent and just try to make it work. If they have to bike, or if they've got to try to figure it out with Uber, it's way more worth it just trying to survive than putting up with these people that are literally abusing you. Also, I'm curious if there's an ATM that might be a little bit closer to OP. I don't know if they have a really niche bank account, but maybe they'd be able to put all that money in via deposit through the ATM. Our next story is, are my parents narcissists? What are your experiences? I'm a fully grown adult with a lot of anxiety, guilt, and a fairly negative self-image. I struggled a lot in my late teens, early 20s, but really pulled myself together mid-20s. Lately, a pretty awful and unexpressed loss sent me spiraling. It was a loss that took my breath and soul, where you want to die even though you have your own family to care for because you can't believe this happened. Anyway, this loss caused me to go to therapy, and that essentially led to topics around my severe anxiety and low self-worth. It made me talk about things in my childhood that happened. I wanted to share a few things that my parents did. For a bit of context, I was a normal child. Not particularly talented or anything, but did fine in school, had friends and hobbies. As a teenager, I started to struggle a lot with anxiety but had great friends. I was not an easy teenager, but by no means hard. I never did drugs, got kicked out of school, slept around, or committed any crimes. Nothing that might explain why your parents were at their wits' ends with you. I did talk back, and I was definitely moody. I hated being around people and just spent most of my time in my room. So here are some of the events. As a young child, I choked on a piece of meat. This caused a serious fear of swallowing, and I would shove as much food in my mouth as possible, then run to the bathroom and flush it down the toilet, or spit it into a tissue and hide it in my pocket to later flush. Anyway, it inevitably blocked the toilets, and I was caught. I was screamed at, and my mother dragged me to the car and drove me to the hospital and said they would shove a tube down my throat and force me to eat. I tried explaining to her I was scared after choking, and her and my dad called me a liar because I could always eat dessert. This is true, I could. I don't know why I was never as scared with desserts, but it was always soft desserts. I could also eat soup, and to this day, soup is one of my favorite meals. Secondly, after a not very good parent-teacher meeting at 14, usual stuff, talks to her friends instead of listening, could apply herself more, nothing too bad. My mother screams at me that I'm the only one in the family who causes them such embarrassment. I fight back, and that again results in me being dragged into the car and drove to the police station. She tells me that she doesn't want me in the family anymore, and the police will find me a new family. I was 14, I knew this wasn't going to happen. If it was possible at the time, I probably would have skipped in. Next, due to severe anxiety, I end up failing exams. I just couldn't focus and cried all the time. Again, told I was a failure, not wrong in this case, brought so much embarrassment to the family, and my mom repeatedly asked how she's meant to face her friends, who will all be asking how I did. It was probably the lowest point of my life. Now, on to my dad. A few years after this, I had repeated and got my exams, finished college, and had a decent job. It didn't earn much, but it was a job with good potential, and I was living on my own and so much happier. My dad rings and asks me to take out a loan for him. The banks won't let him take it out, and he's stuck. He will pay me back in a few months. He specified April. Of course I do, and it doesn't get paid back. I don't get a thank you, and I'm now paying off a loan I can't really afford, and I didn't even see a cent of the money. He's also been stealing from me when I worked as a waitress and got paid in cash, but I never had the heart to confront him. It was only a couple of €100. Years later, me and my dad have a fight over a broken mug. The first present my husband got me. It meant a lot to me, and my family knew it. My dad broke it and didn't even acknowledge it. Obviously, a broken mug isn't really a big deal, but I guess there was built-up anger. The fight escalated, and I mentioned the loan and how I never even got a thank you or acknowledgement. He calls me a bench, selfish, and just screams at me for ages. I leave to stay at my husband's parents that night, and although my dad apologized, he still doesn't acknowledge the loan and says, "I just always thought you were so strong, so I assumed you were fine." Anyways, is this narcissism or just general family dynamics with a twist of toxic? Now, I don't know about narcissism. I don't think I would be the right person to diagnose anybody or say, oh yes, that is telltale narcissism. But I will say those are pretty crappy parents, and they did horrendous things, and they were not in any way sympathetic to you, your feelings, your emotions, what you were going through. Especially the loan, that's just crazy. Our next story is, family wants my cat. I'm staying with my parents for a few months, and they have another cat that doesn't really have a personality, so they love my cat. I have a niece whose mother is now a vet, and the niece keeps saying that she's gonna have my cat one day. I think she thinks this because I gave them my cat one time that they really wanted, but then he died of cancer. Anyway, I don't know, it's just weird to me. Like, my niece is in 4th grade, so I know kids just say whatever, but my stepmom also says things about my cat like, after I move out, the cat is gonna be theirs. Jokingly, I think? I'm not sure. Honestly, in this situation, if you're feeling actually concerned about it, I think it would be totally fair game to just have an aside, have a quick private conversation and just explain, you're confused about the way they say these things, especially like repetitively, and honestly that it kind of makes you uncomfortable, even if it truly is just joking. I think that's totally fair game. Hopefully they don't have like this blow up reaction to that. This next story is narcissistic, soon to be, father-in-law breaks my adult toy. Backstory, I moved in with my now fiance back in January 2022. His stepmom owns the house and his dad owns nothing. His stepmom wanted us to watch the house for them while she did her travel nursing, so someone would be around to keep the cats fed, and of course the dad went with her. We weren't staying there for free, but they still charged us rent and we had to pay all the utilities, but between the two of us, it wasn't an issue. It was a really nice experience being able to finally live with the man I loved, and everything was going perfect for the first 3 months. Then we got the notice that they were coming back because the contract was over and they would be visiting for a couple weeks before his stepmom got another contract. So I went into super cleaning mode because I didn't want it to look like we lived there, right? I cleaned every room except mine because I wasn't expecting them to go anywhere near it or in it without asking. Just as I never went into their room because that's their stuff. I have a lot of not safe for work stuff laying around in my room because it's my private space. That is going to be important later. So the day comes and they arrive. It's all pleasant greetings and ordering pizza because nobody wants to cook. And somehow a conversation comes up where his dad asked me if I cooked any recipes from his binder of recipes. I told him I didn't because I usually just cook things I know and didn't think to look for a book to get a new recipe. He then decided to go on a hunt to find his binder and looked everywhere in the house and started getting frantic, tossing the couches apart, lifting tables, and things going everywhere. My fiance was in our room looking for it, so I figured that was good enough and his dad wouldn't try looking in there himself. Our room is downstairs in a basement with 3 other rooms, and I didn't think much of it when his dad came upstairs and asked me where some scissors were, and I handed him a pair. About 30 minutes later, after food arrived, he looked above the fridge in the super high cabinet and finally found his recipes where he left them. We ate food and watched a movie, and then after saying goodnight, we went to our room. As I was about to lay down, I noticed one of my toys was in a weird spot. Then I got a better look, and the charging cord was cut up into 4 separate pieces, with the USB still plugged into the wall and the other part still inside the toy. My heart sank, and I showed my fiance what happened. He at first thought maybe the cats got to it, but they were clean cuts, and the loose parts were in a pile and not scattered. I no longer felt safe in that house. My fiance didn't want to have to confront his dad because he's extremely hard-headed, and it probably would lead to them fighting and then us getting kicked out, so he begged me to be strong and to not bring it up. I cried so hard that night. Not only did I want to confront him, but I wanted him to pay me for the toy because it was super expensive. I felt so violated. I avoided his dad like the plague for the whole time he was there, until the stepmom took me aside to ask if I was okay because she knew I was avoiding her husband and wanted to know what happened. So I told her what he did, and she looked mortified and said she would talk to him. The next day, his dad went out early in the morning to go work out for about an hour, but didn't come home till late in the afternoon. Me and the stepmom were just having a nice talk in the living room when he came back, and was holding his hand like a kid trying to pretend they're injured and wanted attention. He went straight to the freezer, got an ice pack, and then made a scene of going to the bathroom. His wife called out asking what was up, and he said, "Nothing," like an immature kid. She asked me if I saw what he grabbed, and I told her he grabbed an ice pack. She called out to him again saying, "What happened? Did you hurt yourself?" And again, like an immature kid, said, "You don't want to know," and closed the bathroom door. He eventually came out and came straight to my face very aggressively and said, "Well, if I wasn't so upset about being accused of cutting your cord, this wouldn't have happened to my hand." He came up with a BS story about how he was shopping at a gas station and some guy was being abusive to his girlfriend and he told the guy to stop, and the guy swung at him, and so he beat the guy up and now he has a busted hand. He then proceeded to tell me that it was my fiance that cut my cord, and that he needed to be questioned instead. I was at a loss of words because of how stupid he was and that his wife believed him. I was going to tell him to freak off with that BS, but I had to go to work. So on my way to work, I texted my fiance everything that his dad said. He later told me that he expected something like that to happen because every time his dad gets caught in a lie, he has to make up a stupid story of him being a victim or some kind of hero to make people empathize with him. For example, he cheated on his wife and got caught. So he went out for a while and supposedly a couple of guys tried to jump him and he killed them both? Seriously, like what the freak? And his wife believed it. I don't even know what to say to that. When my fiance was younger, he caught his dad in a lie and his dad accidentally poured beer on his Xbox he bought with his own money. He has the mentality of, if I'm wrong, then everyone else is. Anyway, back to the story. So my fiance was going to talk with him privately and tell his dad he owed me money for the toy and to apologize to me. Unfortunately, his dad canceled their hangout and ended up leaving the next day with nothing being resolved. Another few months go by and another in-between visit. I completely ignore his dad, not even give him a glance or recognition that he's there. He pulls my fiance aside one night and tells him he forgives him and has put the whole thing behind him. I laughed so hard. He is such a narcissist that he believes his own lies. Funny thing is, the toy isn't just for me. My fiance uses them too, so he has no reason to maliciously destroy something he likes. This visit was a lot longer, and everyone was so annoying, they wouldn't say anything to my face. They would tell my fiance things to telephone to me. The last thing was the stepmom saying I needed to be nice to her husband because he's in a good mood when they're out traveling, but when they come back, and I'm ignoring him, it puts him in a bad mood and he snaps. Oh geez, I wonder why. Maybe I'm just a reminder that he's a jerk that got caught. She said if I didn't act nice, they would kick us out. Oh, please just do it. Find someone else willing to pay you rent and all the utilities and feed your idiot cats that puke everywhere and can't stop eating plastic and find wrappers in the litter box. Oh my god, I don't miss it. So I complied and just stayed in my room the whole time. Only left to go to work. Christmas came and it was the performance of a lifetime. I felt sick to my stomach pretending to tolerate him. We didn't get him any presents except a gift card. I got the stepmom a lot of pamper presents and an auto feeder for the cats because they are huge. They got us a bunch of hand-me-downs of extra cooking supplies and household items they no longer needed since they're now no longer doing the travel nursing. And now I'm so happy to be moved out as of Jan 3rd this year, and we're on our own and don't have to see them every day. We're going to have a family talk soon because if his dad doesn't own up to the crap he's done, we are going 100% no contact. I wish you, the stepmom, the fiance, everybody, the best of luck in trying to get this guy to own up to all the stuff he's done. This guy has too much dumb pride to even admit that they cut that cord. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.